Hello everyone, my name is Tim Riker. This is my name sign. Today I am very excited because this is our third in the series, our final in the series, but not the last. This is really important information that we've gone through. The first session was on October 23rd, the second session was October 30th. This will be our last discussion in the series called Deaf Community, Are We Ready for AI? I work as a senior lecturer at Brown University. I teach ASL and Deaf Studies. I'm very excited to be hosting these series through an organization called the Advisory Group for AI and AI and Sign Language Interpreting. Today we have some wonderful panelists joining our discussion. First, I'll go ahead and give a visual description of myself. I'm a white male with facial hair. I'm wearing a shirt that's black. It is collared with button-down long sleeves. My background is gray. I'll go ahead and turn it over to whoever would like to go next to introduce yourself. Yuel, would you like to go?
Sure, that sounds great. Hi, my name is Yoel. I'm a first-year student at RIT. I'm a software engineer major. As for my description, I have light facial hair, brown short hair, and I'm wearing a black t-shirt. My background is mostly white with a table behind me. I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
I will go next. Hello, everybody. My name is Erin Sanders Sigmund, and this is my name sign. I am from Vermont in the middle of nowhere, and I say that every session. I am a deaf interpreter as well. I participate in the advisory group that Tim was just talking about. My visual description is that I've got a purple shirt with a purple headband and a blue background. I will turn it over to Jillian.
Hello, I am Jillian Forshner. I've been involved in the field of ASL for many years as a language model, teacher, and tutor. I teach in the first language and the second language. I live in Southwest Pennsylvania right now. My background is brown. I have gray-brown hair in a bun. I have on a short-sleeved black shirt.
Before we send it over to Steph, I want to say that the purpose of these webinars really has been the first two sessions involved general discussions about what's happening in the realm of AI and what the advisory group has been talking about. Today we're going to meld the two previous sessions with a summary and discussion what the future is after these information sessions. What are the key topics that we need to continue discussing? I want to make sure that we have the slides up. Can you bring those slides up for us all? Give me a second. Those slides will have... This is the logo. You'll see here is Safe AI. The Advisory Group for AI and ASL Interpreting has the mission to, from the discussion with the community, make recommendations on regulations to the Safe AI Task Force, which means stakeholders advocating for fair and ethical AI in the interpreting arena. The task force is a group of stakeholders, and our goal is to make recommendations for new laws that are at a federal level. These recommendations with the intent to ensure that we strategize to protect our deaf community, making sure we have equal access and they don't leave deaf people behind. Making sure that we don't experience colonialism or anybody coming over and taking over our space, as has happened in the past. I'll turn it over to Steph. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Then we can go and start. with your synopsis of the previous 2 webinars and any other sessions that you would like to bring up.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tim. So first I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Stephanie Jo Kent. This is my name sign, shaking an S by the neck. I'm dressed in a brown jacket with a white collared shirt. I'm a white woman with gray hair, short hair, with glasses. My background is black. This is our 3rd session of the series, and this will be a little bit different than the first 2, as Tim explained. We have several slides that have some information on them, and we'll discuss that, and then we'll take a pause to discuss some more, and then we'll go forward with some more slides, pause to have more discussion, and then we'll do the 3rd section of the slides, and then we'll wrap up with a discussion. I want to make sure that we're clear in the structure of the task force and the advisory group. The task force was independently set up mostly for spoken languages, and they make recommendations to Congress. And they invited several deaf experts to join them and to be invited in that discussion. The deaf who are involved in that group would be Tim, Erin, and several others, and Yoel is saying I am as well. Then we set up this advisory group, and this is separate from the task force. The advisory group is the deaf community, leaders of deaf organizations and such. So the advisory group is hosting this series. We want to gather all that we can from Jillian, Yoel, Erin, and all of the discussions that we have had, and be able to summarize the discussion and then show that tonight. Then we will give that to the advisory group, and that will aid in their discussion and their recommendations to the task force. Hopefully that's clear. Next slide, please. This is the title. Next slide. Again, we have had 3 public sections. Next slide. So why talk about this now? Why now? This is the fall of 2023. Why are we doing this right now? Next slide. So about a year ago, ChatGPT was released with a bang. It was just amazing. AI had arrived. And that was just 1 year ago. Next slide. Then last week, October 30th, President Biden gave an executive order about AI, which is really great, saying that we need to take AI seriously. Next slide. So that's kind of the big picture of why. So what was happening throughout the world, we are in the history of this time right now, making history. Next slide. Next slide. So what are we going to do? What can we do? Next. First, we have to figure out who is the we. Who is that? Who are we talking about? Next slide. Next. So that task force, Safe AI, is the task force.
They are part of the we.
Next. So CIT, which means the Conference of Interpreter Trainers, that organization is mostly language educators. Well, not sign language, but interpreter education. They teach in the ITPs and they train people to become interpreters. They made an agreement with RID, which means Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf, to support an advisory group. Next. There's a publication that was sent out, the RID Views, which you can read that if you want. That article is an introduction of the concept of the advisory group and how it is related to the task force.
It is provided in sign language as well as blog.
Correct. Thanks, Tim. Right, it is in English and ASL as well. Next. So then we were able to set up the advisory group. So now we have more than 40 organizations and representatives there, and that's wonderful. That's great. Next. So this is the we that we are talking about, plus you, in these information sessions. Jillian, Erin, Yoel, plus the audience, you become part of the we. So the first two webinars, there were over 200 people. And tonight we have roughly 140, so this is great. Some of the people from before, I'm sure, and some new people as well. We've had several hundred people participate in the we of who we are talking about. Next. This is the name of the panelists. Next. Okay, Tim?
So Steph just summarized the purpose of the group, the different languages in the United States, some as well as international languages, focusing mainly on the United States because the laws and the regulations here in the United States will impact us. We feel like this issue, as Steph mentioned, is history making. We are only in the beginning stages. We haven't even done it yet. But the way that it's going is really fast. So we're introducing where we're at and realizing that we are in history. How do you feel about that being in the moment of history, where we are?
As Steph recently mentioned, in regards to ChatGPT and some of the concerns, AI itself has obviously been invented since the 60s. I have done some research and there were early models in the 60s, but the technology, well, we didn't have the technology in place to support it. But now, obviously, with the use of technology every day and in our devices, we do. ASL interpreting being more prevalent today, it's a big concern. And that's why we have a task force and an advisory group to make sure that it really does not completely dishevel our language. So there are some big concerns, and I'm really happy that we have gathered here in these 3 sessions and we have an advisory group that I'm a part of to be able to promote awareness out there in regards to this topic.
From where we're at now, we're just talking about where we've been so far, what we have discussed so far.
People have just said move on.
Yeah, the impact, the profoundness of the history making of where we are in the ASL interpreting and AI. It is not just an ASL issue, it is actually impacting all languages. signing languages as well. This is a really important moment in our history. We're here to talk about how that is going to impact us going forward in our future. Yoel did mention, did you want to repeat what you were saying?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. Steph was mentioning about AI and the impact and recent concerns. I said, really, AI was created and it's been around since the 60s. But obviously, we're seeing it more now because technology has caught up with the times and can support it. So we have a lot of technology access. That is why we have the task force and advisory group in place to make sure it really does not remove or damage our language. I think it's very important that we keep an eye on it. We make sure we're aware and to limit those concerns.
I just want to add to what Yoel just mentioned. So not only maybe destroy our language or any language, but be able to protect us as well, including deaf children, the deaf community, and all those involved.
Definitely.
Did you want to add something?
This is Erin signing. Thanks, Tim. I think they all covered it pretty well. It is a matter of protection for the community. We want to make sure that we make an effort and lead in what the future is for the community, for the deaf, deafblind, for the signing community as a whole. I think that's the point that everybody is saying here, that this is historical, history in the making. We're in it, and we want to be in it together. So, yeah, go ahead.
We're ready for the next part. We'll go ahead and continue on with the slides. And we'll come back for more discussion.
Next, Rob. Great. So now, after all of this discussion, what is the most important question that we've come up with? It seems in having all of this discussion that we're really curious about, will AI really give access to deaf consumers? There's some doubt on whether that is true or not. So next. There are two parts to that. So we have two parts. We're talking about technology and is it ready? Can technology handle sign language? And the social aspect, how will that work? Next. First, the technology part. That is called sign language recognition. Next. So sign language recognition is really represented in avatars and two different types of AI for sign language. Making signs by avatars and then recognition of the signs. Avatars. Next. So the avatars, what is their meaning? Avatars involve hearing people speaking to deaf consumers, meaning speech to sign or text to sign. So what the hearing people want to communicate to you or to the deaf, or what the machine wants to communicate to you. Then the sign language recognition would be what the deaf would sign and want to communicate and would be turned into speech or text. The sign language recognition would be what the hearing person is getting from the sign language. And right now they are separate, very separate. They are not combined. There would be no turn taking with either of those. There's no programs or apps to support that. Next. The social aspect. Next. There are 3 themes within that. The themes were not made by us, but from one of the participants, an audience member, who came up with the 3 themes. Dr. Lynn Jacobowitz was in the audience and watching the first information session and the second information session. As she was watching that, she identified 3 things within those discussions. It was really amazing, and so I borrowed her observations, and this is what she came up with.
Accountability, accuracy,
This English word, affection. People think of it as something they are drawn to or they enjoy. But affection can also mean nuances and subtleties, little details of a language. It's very specific. Affection shows what we care about, these details. Next is accountability. There are a few examples of accountability. Over and over again, it was emphasized that the deaf must be involved in this process. The hearing community cannot continue to move forward without deaf involvement. That's what we're talking about with accountability. And not only that, but the hearing people must respect and prioritize the deaf's authority in this issue. Next. Accuracy. That's also related with quality. The translation, the interpretation must be accurate. Not only within ASL, we are talking about ASL for this discussion, but there's over 300 languages throughout the world. It has to be right. It has to be accurate. Next. And affection. And that we're talking about non-manual markers, non-manual signals, facial expression, classifiers. The 3D space and how that would influence meaning. Time, the speed, or the speed of the sign. That means something different as well. Next. Okay, Tim?
As we're talking about the technology aspect component of it, it's kind of more black and white. How it's developed, what the structure is, the algorithms, making sure that's keeping up with spoken language interpreting, and the avatar aspect as well. Having that sign language recognition and having that two-way communication, mode of communication. Now, also talking about the social impacts and the social complexities, how that makes it more challenging. How do we address that?
Anybody could come up with a technology.
But how do we, as a culture, how do we get that respect for deaf individuals and our lives to continue to make them more equitable and fighting for it to be equitable? It feels like the technology is being developed faster and faster every day. Is the community ready for it? Are we ready for us to stand up and say, we want it to be equitable? How do you guys feel about that?
Great. So one thing that Steph mentioned in regards to two-way conversations regarding the avatar and voice to sign and sign to voice or text, but with the model, thus far, it's only been one way. If you have two individuals that are talking to each other and communicating, you would need two separate models, one directionally one way and the other one the other way. How are we going to make the connection between the two? To be able to know what each other is talking about, understanding the meaning, syntax, and everything that comes with the language. I'm not sure if we have that kind of technology. So the question is, are we ready for that? We wouldn't be unless we did more research on two-way communication.
Other thoughts?
This is Erin signing. I'm 50-50, a 50-50 split on that one. If there's two models, then that means that some people will say, yeah, absolutely, bring it on. I'm ready for the challenge, the philosophy of embracing the challenge. But there are some others that might be more hesitant. They want to see X, Y, Z before they get ready for it. And I think it's divided at this time, 50-50.
Jillian, do you want to make a comment on that?
Yeah, really the same as everyone else has been saying. I'm split 50-50. Some of us want to see some of those working first, then maybe we'll jump on board. But if it kind of starts to mess up, then we'll avoid it.
How would deaf individuals establish the authority in the field to be able to say, okay, hold on a second, if they see something going awry, to be able to step in and say, hold on a second, what do you think that looks like?
I think there needs to be more research done. What kind of pathways? What kind of models? What kind of direction are we going to go? Again, that two-way communication. That can't be just one way. As Erin mentioned, 50-50. In theory, that's great, fine, but I still have concerns. I need to see it with my own eyes first as a deaf member of the community before it becomes applicable. We can't release these things out into the public and then all of a sudden realize that this isn't going to work that way. Just my thoughts.
Also, we need to see if things go wrong. Then we can learn from that and improve for the future and fix it, then prevent that from happening again.
Okay, so something goes awry, but we're going down the track and the train falls off the track, right? How do we backtrack? You can't do that. You can't go back in time. So how do you prevent that kind of technology going askew?
I think that's why we're here. The advisory group needs to be in place in the first place, working with the task force. There needs to be a plan in advance. I think, we're all human, but we're learning and want to prevent errors as best as possible, but need to learn how to minimize mistakes. As you said, the proverbial train goes off the track, and then we need to learn from our mistakes so that it's corrected and doesn't happen again.
This is Erin signing. I think the answer's right in front of our face, really. Mistakes happen. That's part of life. They happen all different times at all different levels of life in general. Generally speaking, you can't expect it to not happen with AI. That's kind of where we're at. Life is applied to AI. There is no chance of it being perfect. It's impossible. But again, that's my 2 cents. But what do we do about it? There has to be some form of safeguards or some sort of safety, like a safety net. And so how do you, once the train has gone off the tracks, how do you right the wrongs? What do you do? How do you get back on course? And again, anything is possible. Anything is possible. I agree. Yes, I do believe that the deaf community will want to see that accountability. That's something that has been against us in history, in our making, right? How do we keep that accountability? How do we get that accountability? That's the question. That's for the larger audience to answer that question. It could go this way, it could go that way. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. Aaron, you had mentioned the train or whatever you called it, the cart falling off the track and having a safety net underneath it. That means, again, our feedback. We need to be a part of the technology, that safety net. If there's something new being developed, whether it be an app or a device that we're using, there needs to be the means for our feedback. That would be our safety net, and it needs to be continuous.
This is a great discussion. I want to make sure we have time to get through all of it. To the third part of the session, we'll go into that.
Thank you. Rob, next slide, please. So what can you do to help this process move forward in relation to AI? And in the future, for AI to be used for interpreting services, what can you do and how can you help? First, we'll soon have a survey ready. The survey will be called the Perception Survey. It's your opinion, your experience. You'll fill out the survey or you'll sign it, and you'll take that survey and then you'll let your friends know about it and have them complete the survey as well. Next. Next. This website for the survey, it is on the Safe AI Task Force website. So that is their survey. Next. See the red circle? The survey will be translated into ASL. Plus 9 other languages as well, not only English. That Safe AI Task Force can collect all of the data because they want the deaf perspective as well. Next. Next. So the perception survey will be available in a week or two. December of 23.
Get it out into the community's hands.
Next. That survey was translated by Erin.
Yay, good job, Aaron.
So a little word of warning, the survey is lengthy. It will take some time. So as you go to the landing page of that website, it'll be in SurveyMonkey. And then you can read the English, but you can also click on a link and it will be translated into ASL. Next. There will be several questions, about 25 to 28 questions. Some will be brief in answer and some will take longer. Some you pick like a multiple choice option, and then that's all that question would require. Some will ask for an explanation. Then you would record yourself signing that answer, the explanation. And we would teach you how to submit that in a video format. Next. As you record yourself signing those answers and explanations, that recording of yourself could possibly contribute to the research, but only if you give your consent. That's what we have been talking about with informed consent. If you go ahead and give your consent, it could possibly be used in the research. Next. The survey will be open for 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, and then it will be closed January 12th of 24. This means you have to do it. You've got to get on it because there's a very limited time that it is offered. Next. Next. Now, we're talking about how the deaf will have control of that. How will the deaf have control of that? Based on the principles that we have discussed here and with the advisory group, the things we have discussed there, that video recording that you make of yourself, if you give your consent, next. So right now we're in negotiations with the Safe AI Task Force and the company who is running that survey. The name of the company is CSA Research. We already have a framework for getting that consent, for being able to use the video of your response. If you give your consent, then they would hold those. They will not be allowed to use them. It will be in a holding period until we have a partner who will be able to do that sign language recognition research. Next. There will be 2 levels of empowerment and authority. With the survey that you would answer and sign your responses, that would be one part. Those themes would influence the advisory group and the task force and what steps they would do next. The design that they would take for a more specific survey to be able to figure out what recommendations to give to Congress. So you finish that survey and you give those recommendations, and that is the purpose of taking the survey. And then added on to that, if desired, your video can be included in the sign language recognition data set. Next. Also, sorry, I wanted to add something else. That data set currently, if you give your consent, and it's in a holding period. So, for example, if next year someone says we want to work with them for the sign language recognition research, and then who would give the authority to those partners to use that data set? That would be the advisory group. The advisory group, the deaf organizations, the deaf leaders would be the ones to give that consent. They would filter that and make a decision. And one requirement that they've already agreed upon is that it would be a nonprofit. That no one can make money from that data set. That it would only be for public gain and it would be for nonprofit. Okay.
All right, so now we'll open it up for discussion. So sending out the survey. We'll be sending out and asking for your input. So do you think, from your experience or from your opinion, do you think the recording should be used for research purposes to help with sign language recognition? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I would go ahead and add to that. For me, it's a yes and yes. So something to help for our future, I feel like that's very important to give that gift to someone. I feel like that's important and I don't mind doing that.
Yoel?
One thing I definitely agree on is it has to be deaf-led. Deaf involved, deaf individuals. You know, the deaf community, it really is prized possession and our language is cherished. So this would be an opportunity for deaf individuals to be involved, to be able to contribute to the language and to improve the process of AI. So for me, it's an absolute no-brainer. It's a yes for sure. I would consent to a video.
Erin?
Again, yes and no. Maybe I should plead the Fifth Amendment. I think at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to making sure that we have everybody's input, that everybody's voice is heard. We continue getting that collaboration, get that data, continue seeking that data, sending out those reminders and reminding them of the cutoff date. Please give your thoughts, wanting them to know that their voice matters.
This is Tim. Remember, we are feeling some time pressure. You know, again, this is to be presented and put up for policy, and it is not going to stop, and they are not going to put a freeze on this. We can come back and collect more information, do more research, see how it's going. What are the glitches? I don't want you to think it's going to be solved in the day. This is an ongoing process. It will continue going forward. For now, the immediate future is in our face. AI is here. It can come at us really fast. Steph, do you want to add any last comments here?
Yeah, so I wanted to say a little bit more about the informed consent. You can decline.
That's important information.
It doesn't require a yes. You would just say, I understand, and no, do not use my recording, the video that I sent in. This means that the survey, when you fill it out, your answers are very important. With your informed consent, we need to learn from that. Maybe there might be 1 in 10 deaf people who will say yes. Go ahead and use my video. I want to use this to develop the sign language recognition. There could be 90% that say no, don't use my video. And your answers to the survey will still guide the task force, influencing the recommendations. It is very important to realize when we use that word consent, informed consent does not mean that you have to agree to something. Informed consent means that you understand that you as an individual have a choice to make. Either yes, go ahead and use it, or no, I don't consent to that.
This is Erin signing. That's such a very important powerful choice. That information, knowing that you have the information, read the information, absorbed the information, and have time to process it and still make the decision. That decision is ultimately yours.
For sure. Everything has a risk and a benefit. You have to figure out your risk-reward balance. If you're going to give to this, that would be like, okay, what does it benefit? Does that outweigh the risks? So you have to definitely analyze that. I mean, nothing's 100%, but you can be aware enough to feel like it is worth your time and investment to it. Did I see Yoel put your hand up?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I would say for the question for deaf people, I think you need to check and make sure, what are you asking? Does it match their willingness? As far as taking time to review, would you rather hearing people go ahead and take advantage of that, or would you rather have deaf people be at the forefront and involved in the task force and this advisory group? So you have to do your research. You have to be aware. Just be fully aware.
So maybe a little bit off the assignment, but talking about that survey and giving that warning that it's pretty long, I'm wondering if, as you're going through the survey, can you hold it and take a break and then come back to it? Does it have that option? Is the availability there for that?
That's iffy. It's best to schedule your time to take it all in one sitting. Just use that hour. Just sit there and get it done. Maybe you can run to the bathroom and go back, but keep that tab open. Don't click out of it. Don't jump around to other websites, because if you've gone halfway through and then you lose it, it's gone. Then your recommendation won't be recorded. So with the question about informed consent, if you understand whether you're going to go ahead with that and allow them to use it, that's the last question on the survey. So that means you answer, numbers 1, 2, 3, all the way down. And then you know your own answers. And your own answers as you sign, those are your opinions. Then we will interpret your signs from the survey for that report so that it is in the same format as other languages, so that they can compile all of the data, and that is part of the survey itself. If you consent to being recorded and have them keep your recording for the sign language recognition, for the researchers, there are very strict requirements. So there will only be a few people on the team who will be allowed to see those recordings. Those recordings never become public. They are kept very confidential. And the computer will be able to analyze that. Remember, the computer doesn't know what it's looking at. It's trying to learn from the movements, so it's watching it. For example, if there's 100 videos, the computer will watch all of the videos, the movements, and it will learn to recognize patterns. It will catch a certain pattern and try to make sense of that pattern and give it meaning. It has nothing to do with you as a person, you individually, how you look, or what you've said actually. All of that the computer does not even care about. It is only looking for patterns.
Looks like we have about 5 minutes remaining, opening up to see if there's any more discussion, anything anybody wants to add before we wrap up.
Yeah, you mentioned about picking up patterns, catching patterns. So the computer algorithm itself, that we talked about at the last session, recognizing patterns and being concerned with privacy issues, like also mentioned. If you're willing, you sign and you're willing to sign a consent so that your information will be kept private. I think, again, it's really interesting. I think it would be really good. As far as taking a survey, I think that would be important.
Thanks, Yoel. I wanted to add a little bit to that as well, because remember we were talking about the 3 groups that need to agree. So the first group being the task force, the second group being advisory group, and the third being the researchers themselves. So the researchers and the task force are very concerned with confidentiality and privacy as well. They take that as a priority. They are not in a big rush to get those agreements and get things done in a hurry. They want to make sure that they are protecting our information and that we understand that. So I feel very good about them and their concerns about the safety and their safety policies.
Yeah, and one of the most important aspects of research is confidentiality and making sure the data protections are in place, that nobody can take the data and use it for another purpose. The process to protect the information, confidentiality, making sure our intent and purposes are correct so nothing is stolen or causes harm. For individuals giving their permission, their consent to be filmed with that fully informed consent to be able to use that information in the data set. We want to make sure that every part from beginning to end of this process is protected for the participants, the deaf community that's being involved, in making sure that that information is being used for the purpose that is intended. Recording it, holding it, and then understanding. It will be a nonprofit organization with specific intent to be used for research purposes, only to improve sign language recognition. The advisory group has the strong leadership to make sure that protection is in place. Anything else? Anybody want to add?
I just want to... Oh, Erin, did you want to say something? No? Okay. I want to thank all of you for being involved with this discussion for the past 3 weeks. Wow, you guys have been amazing. Your thoughtful responses and the discussions that we've had, so many perspectives. I mean, we have just done so much covering a lot of this. We've touched on many issues, and I'm so grateful that you've been involved and willing to participate in this discussion.
Hope to see you again in the future for more of these.
This is Erin. I just want to thank everybody in advance for taking the survey.
Yes, I second that.
Thank you.
Wow, these 3 weeks went so fast.
Yes, too fast.
Blink of an eye.
3 Mondays went by quickly.
Erin, thank you very much. Thank you for your vibe. Thank you for the sign language that you share with our community and helping out and the diversity. I look at you and I know I'm a technical person.
You definitely are the tech savvy guy.
But I really do appreciate and enjoy the 3 of us and the diversity that we have brought to this table here.
Yes, it's been fun. We have all needed all the perspectives involved.
I just remember we started at like a month ago, and wow, here we are now.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so going forward, we'll definitely be putting out some communication to everybody regarding also the advisor group. Make sure you're taking a look at that. Anything related to AI, make sure you pay attention. Keep it on your radar, and we'll be getting you out some important information along the way. We definitely need people to fill out the survey, so please pass that information along and remind others to do it as well.
What was that saying? We're all in this together.
Great, thank you. Have a good rest of your night, everyone, and thanks so much for coming.
Signing off.